I don't know how people still, like, after being saved, live this life without God. If I had to live this life without God, I would hate to see the person that I would be, because I hated who I was before.
Same. And that's why Jesus says to...
So if you haven't heard of the 10 commandments, it goes a little bit like this. So the first one, you shall have no other gods before me. When we create idols, and idols can come in the form of anything, they do become our gods. Anything that we think about more than we think about God is an idol, whether that's our phone, our job, money, our bodies, like any of these things become an idol to us.
Yeah.
2, you shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. We see a lot of this with New Age. So people always want to worship creation rather than the creator. And that's always going to lead us astray. But again, we have an enemy. Same way that Satan tempted Eve in the garden with something, with a form of something, with a form of creation. The lust of our eyes, we crave these things. And that's why we run to them. New Age with the crystals, you have energy, peace, all these things that they say you can get from a creation. But really, in reality, they come from the creator.
Yeah.
3, you shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord your God will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Think about how scary that is, because we always do this. When you hear people going, oh my God, or Jesus Christ, and they're using it almost like a curse word. In movies, we see it all the time, and it's just something that we say. It's a part of our regular vocabulary. But when you do that, you're literally misusing the name of God, and you're taking it in vain, which is like every other sin. It's against God. It's detestable in his sight. He hates sin because it dishonors him. 4, remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. So that is why so many of us fail at this, because our society is so rushed. We're so restless in our society.
Oh, yeah.
No one has peace. Everybody is moving a million miles a minute. And it's because we're not resting. God created the Sabbath for us. All of this is for our protection. All of this is to remain in right standing so we can live peaceful, fruitful lives. 5 is honor your father and mother so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God has given you. Like, I personally realized how important this is because, you know, anyone who kind of knows a little bit of my testimony, growing up was not easy. So honoring my mom and dad was not even like a thing. And my dad passed away when I was 9, and he was already like kind of barely around, you know. So it was mainly honoring my mom, but my mom wasn't living how she should have been living either, and it really led me astray. But when God took a hold of my heart and showed me this verse, I realized that I obey my parents because I obey you first, God. Yeah. And when I started doing that, let me tell you what a shift happened in my family and in my mom's heart. I was actually able to represent God's love and Jesus's love in my household. And now my mom is so on fire for the Lord. It's something that I prayed for every single day. And now it's actually here, and it just makes my heart so full. And we all have that same power in us. Representing Christ will change things. It changes your life. It changes your family's life. Most people don't like run to God because they don't know about it. Like, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. So if you have the knowledge, if you know about God, you please take it seriously to spread the word and spread the light of Jesus, because that's the only thing that changes people's hearts. So then we go down to the 6th commandment, which is you shall not murder. Mm-hmm. Pretty self-explanatory. If anybody needs me to explain that, DM us. No judgment here. We got your back. Okay. Number 7 is you shall not commit adultery.
Yeah, in the Bible, in Matthew, Jesus talks about if you've already seen another woman with lustful eyes, and you've already committed adultery in your heart. And in James chapter 1, verses 14 and 15, it says, but each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. Then after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown, gives birth to death. So it's that thought. It's kind of like when David, he saw Bathsheba in the tub. Instead of just looking the other way, he entertain those thoughts. And when you entertain those thoughts, it's going to fester in your heart, and then you're going to want to act on it. And then you don't realize what happens until it happens and you're laying in bed with that other person. So that is why Jesus focuses so much on the heart.
You know how many families are destroyed because of adultery? That's why we have to have boundaries. Like, we have to have boundaries in our jobs. We have to have boundaries with our friends, because it's always like one simple step. The second you say a little too much, or get too comfortable, or start making another person feel too comfortable when you're in a partnership with someone, it is bound to lead to more. That's why have respect. Like, honor your partner, honor each other, and respect each other, and love them like you want to be loved. Because if you're doing that, you're never going to put yourself in a position to lose a gift that God has given you.
Yeah. And be careful of the world's definition of at least they didn't act out on it. At least he's just watching porn and it's not real life. Jesus takes it deeper than that. He says that if you have nurtured the thought in your heart, then you have already committed You've already committed adultery. So we take these things seriously because it starts with the thoughts. It starts with your heart. It's what you do with the desire that you have. Do you try to have self-control and control it and look the other way? Wow. Or do you actually act out on it and then do something that you're going to regret? And that's why Jesus says to pick up our cross and follow him.
So the 8th commandment is you shall not steal. Stealing things is wrong. That's why God says not to do it. It's something I love about the commandments is that God never says like, you shall not, like, this is like, it's always like really basic moral things that it's like never so deep. It's just don't steal, don't murder, don't commit adultery. Like, these are good things. Like, anyone who has done anything on this list has ran into pain, has ran into ruins and uncomfort and destruction. So that's why we're not supposed to do it. Prison. So the 9th commandment is you shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. This bearing false testimony can ruin people's lives pretty much. People have found themselves in jail. Businesses have been ruined. It's just talking when we shouldn't be talking, especially when we know that it's wrong, or we know that it's untrue, or we're just not sure if it's true or not. Like, that's just adding gasoline to a fire, and that is not what we're called to do as Christians or God's people. 10, you shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife or his male or female servants, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor.
Yeah, I feel like especially in marriage or in any relationship, the moment that you start coveting something outside the covenant of marriage, you see the marriage start to go downhill because you're comparing, you're not really grateful for what you have and the woman or the man that you have.
And even outside of relationships, when that's being ungrateful. That is the lack of gratitude. And we talked about it in another podcast, but if you're not grateful for the little things that you have, and you're not faithful with the little things you have, then God's not going to trust you with much. God's not going to want to bless your life because you already have a heart that's ungrateful. And a heart that's ungrateful is always hungry. It doesn't matter how much it gets, it's going to want more. You're not grateful for the car you have, and you're constantly like looking at what other people have. You're constantly looking at other people's like bodies, if they're fit or anything like that, instead of working on yourself and running your own race that's marked out for you.